production, exchange, consumption, and investment, are economic activities. Those activities, which contribute to the national income of country are called economic activities. During economic activities, a society faces a problem of scarcity of resources. And further, the problem of scarcity of resources gives rise to the problem of choice. Now let's proceed to main topic. Meaning of central problem of an economy. Problems arise due to scarce resources and unlimited wants, are called central problems of an economy, or fundamental problems of an economy. Moving to next slide. Types of central problems of an economy. What to produce and, in what quantities, how to produce. Whom to produce. Next. What to produce and in what quantities. Society has to decide whether to produce basic needs such as food, clothing, or luxurious goods such as cars and AC. Every society must decide on how much of each of the many possible goods and services it will produce. Society has to decide whether to produce agricultural goods or industrial goods. Further, society has to decide how much agricultural goods to be produced and how much industrial goods to be produced. Since the society cannot neglect the industrial goods completely, society has to balance between the production of industrial output and agricultural output. To understand it more clearly, we can take an example of government spending. Government has to decide between the welfare spending and defense spending. Moving to next slide. How to produce. Every society has to decide on how much of which of resources to use in production of goods and services. Labor and capital are resources available in society. Firms want to reduce the cost. On other hand, government is more concerned about the employment and growth. Whether to use more labor or more capital. This problem is related to the capital-intensive technique and labor-intensive technique. Labor-intensive technique means more use of labor in production, as comparison to the capital. On other hand, capital-intensive means more use of capital, as comparison to the labor in the production. Labor-intensive technique increases the employment opportunities in the society. On other side, capital-intensive technique is good for getting more growth rate, but capital-intensive technique is not good for employment, since it reduces employment opportunities. Moving on. Whom to produce. How to distribute produced goods and service among the individuals, and how to decide the shares of different factors of production such as labor, land and capital, who gets more and who gets less. Here society has to decide whether or not to provide some minimum standard of living for all members of society. In conclusion, we can say that the allocation of scarce resources and the distribution of the final goods and services are the central problems of economy.